And here we are, my friends. Here we are with the second week of February, which this time is also a month really oriented in weeks, and a moment I would not say important. Otherwise, it seems here that we do the astrology the fuffa astrologers fake/scammy, that every lunation, everything is important. No, it's not true. It is a period of transition like many. You have to think that in a zodiac, it is a bit like liturgical time for those who know it. There is much ordinary time, and then there are the feasts, which can be more or less long, can be more or less interesting, but the concept is that. So please, you have to think in this way. There are very long transition periods. Do not hope that the turning point of life on an astrological level is, I do not say any day, but that in any case it is projectable in a year and many days, because it is not like that. Simply, Spinoza used to say that, perhaps many of you do not know it. I discover my students do not know it. His name was Baruch. So this should make you understand a few things. The supreme activity that the human being can perform is to learn in order to understand. Because to understand is to be free. You see how subtle this thing is, how astrological this definition by Spinoza is. That is, understanding is freedom, not knowledge. I know it's subtle. It's essentially an anti-Aristotelian thing. And you can make fun of me, but when I talk about astrology, I always talk by doing a mix of Platonism or Neoplatonism, if you prefer. Maybe there's some friend who studied philosophy who could scold me on this. And precisely Aristotelianism or astrological Neo-Aristotelianism, where instead things are a bit different. So this is a week where substantially freedom does not pass through rebellion. Okay? So this is particularly important. But for that deep understanding of the structures that govern us, which is proper to astrology. So please, dear friends, this must be our leitmotif. Someone will have noticed that Uranus is no longer in retrograde motion, so it is about to seriously leave Taurus, with all due respect to the signs that will see in opposition. The first will be Sagittarius, clearly, who will see in opposition for quite a few years, but clearly. But this aspect also concerns Capricorn, who has inquinkings, and Scorpio, who however is light in the load, as it is now in opposition. Then it will pass into quinkings. So let's say Scorpio, among the signs that have this transit as negative, very negative, will breathe a bit more. Sagittarius will clearly be the one worst off, having the opposition, and Capricorn will begin the period of negative Uranus, which will last until it leaves Leo. So it will really take, guys, many of us will not be here when this happens. And so I confess to you, no, also for the transit in Sagittarius, also for our Scorpio friends, to start dealing with what will happen with the oppositions. Learn, know, and avoid. Furthermore, Saturn has entered the 29th degree of Pisces. So he too is about to leave this last bulwark of positive aspects for the water signs, and naturally for cardinal signs, because one Saturn is inside Aries. It will be in square both to Cancer and to Libra and to Capricorn. And so, here too we have to spend some time thinking about things. For the rest, migration is important. Mars is starting to go behind the sun. That is, it's already behind the sun, but it's losing a lot of ground, and this is important because Mars in front of the sun is a bit the triumph of the ars bellica, art of war. Mars behind the sun, always when they're very close, otherwise clearly it makes no sense, slows down this process a bit. Venus too is about to migrate into Pisces. Mercury is already there, and so Aries. Dear friends of Aries, selfishness does not consist in living as we please, but in demanding that others live as it pleases us. The person who wrote this wonder was Oscar Wilde. Oscar Wilde, who, you know, on his deathbed, if they haven't told you, and even before dying, bitterly repented of his libertine life. So be careful when they talk to you about Wilde. Read a bit of bibliography to really understand how great this character was, how much he had put his hand to life, and above all, and this, friends of Aries, is why I chose this quote today. How humble he was at the end of his life in understanding that perhaps some choices he had made were completely wrong. In the end, he tells it very well in that masterpiece, which is a picture of Dorian Gray, where this painting of Dorian undergoes the insults of time and the malice of this character, who instead remains young. It is a discourse that, in my opinion, glues fairly well with the period of Aries, because the week is a challenge to balance individual drive and the necessity of the collective. You probably feel a great need to act, but heaven suggests to you substantially that the true victory this time, dear friends, is obtained through diplomacy. It is not the time to break down doors. We have said it several times. It is a time to find the right keys through dialogue with allies. Make friends in time of peace because you need them in time of war. They say in Naples. Sorry, I improvised it, so I wasn't set well on Neapolitan, so I apologize to Neapolitan friends. And yet the concept is exactly that. It is a moment at work for strategic planning. Big projects can take off only if you know how to involve the right people. And here I want you, dear friends, do not be afraid to share your merits. A shared success is a success that always lasts longer. Possible positive news could come from collaborations that were born almost for fun. Finances require great foresight. It is an excellent time to invest in training and also in technology. In love, lightness is your secret weapon. If you have a few unusual activities, as I say, it's easy to break the couple's routine. So it's a good time, surely. Venus for a few more days is in sextile with the sun. Then it will pass to the semi-sextiles, which we don't even dislike. So it's fine as it is. Routine is an enemy, but this week Aries is well armored to be able to face it. For singles, the magnetic charm derives from the fact that you seem less hungry, that is, less in search of a bond at all costs. And this is a very good thing. Try to increase your appeal from this point of view and not decrease it, okay? So don't show that you are interested in starting relationships except when things are naturally already more established. Heaven forbid. Someone, and this is a very important thing, might notice you for your fairly new ability because it derives a bit from the no longer negative astral combinations. To listen without judging. This will be practically the whole leitmotif of Saturn inside Aries. A period of significant growth, where Aries will have to learn to fight one of its greatest defects, which is being extremely gossipy, judging continuously, and putting oneself always and in any case above others. It's the first sign of the zodiac. There's even a logic to this. It's also an excellent time for physical form, surely. Be careful not to make too many efforts where much breathing is required. Taurus. So, here to make you understand a bit in general the trend of this week, which in the end is a bit the tale of that Aquarianism, as I call it, that gives so much trouble to Taurus, but which is the prelude to the great arc, because with this week we enter the last 10 degrees, Aquarius ends, and when Aquarius is finished, the great arc of Taurus begins, which, as you well know, is usually the absolute best moment of the year, because there are no squares in the sun until the sun reaches Leo. So you can really enjoy it later, dear friends of Taurus. The concept of this week is that life is 10% what happens to you and 90% how you react. This thing without the percentages, but it wasn't clear, was said by Marcus Aurelius. Exactly. Marcus Aurelius says that happiness depends on the quality of your thoughts. What does this sky and this quote invite us to do? To being a bit effectively stoic regarding what happens, but not to undergoing completely everything that happens, because with the sun in the tent and in square, that's an important thing. We are anyway in front of a moment of extreme visibility, but visibility also means exposure, the expectations towards you, who judges you. If you feel too much pressure, what you have to change is not what you're outside, but the internal narrative. You are not under examination. You are simply in a phase of expansion. Work. A professional goal could be very close. In fact, dear Mercury has already left Aquarius and is already making the first sextile inside. Yes, it makes the first sextile with the Taurus suns inside Pisces. So one last effort is needed. This effort, dear friends of Taurus, is an adaptive effort. Someone could propose a change of role or a new responsibility that forces you to leave your preferences. Now I will say a bad thing, from your comfort zone, so you all understood me, but you know that I hate this definition. But clearly to make you understand, you should accept this challenge. Many Taurus will do it, but I know that a good percentage surely no, because it's a moment for many Taurus also of a minimum of confusion. So be careful. You have all the credentials to succeed in what is being proposed to you. Hardly will something be proposed to you that you cannot do. On the economic front, you must avoid emotional spending. Taurus has moments in which it spends to unload the soul a bit. And it's fine, it fits, right? When we are stressed, we spend money justly earned, and it's fine. The problem is that Taurus is the only sign that regrets it the second after. Taurus could say, come on, let's go on a trip. Then even before leaving, already when he's on the plane, he says, oh my God, how much we are spending. You understand? there's a thing, then it's enough that one thing goes minimally wrong and Taurus stiffens. The first thing he thinks about is the money. But oh well, this is a character trait of sign. As for affections, be careful because a career here this week could steal a bit of space in the heart, and the partner might not take it well. The weekend I personally would dedicate completely to affections also because the moon starts in Scorpio, does a nice slice of Capricorn. It's true it greets us almost in Aquarius, but it still works. Singles then can make very important meetings with successful people. So if there are people who are able to give you security, friends of Taurus, and I'm talking about men and women, maybe it's time to extend at least a hand to understand what world these people move in and understand that this world, which is then made of many things, in some way interests us. I know it's not really a very simple thing because it will be necessary to wake up from adolescence, but that's how it is. Gemini. So, dear Gemini, there's an adage that is attributed to Socrates, but then as you well know, dear good Socrates didn't write anything. We only know him through his students, particularly through Plato, so very often said, Plato makes Socrates say. But anyway, the concept I wanted to pass on to you is that one must never stop learning because you will ask yourselves there are moments when one arrives, because life never stops teaching, and this is a problem. So it's as if you had a professor always at the desk and you are students and there's nothing to be done because life is something that comprises concepts that we cannot even touch. It is the moment in which Gemini with the sons of Aquarius, but also with the preeminent arrival of Uranus, of which by now one feels ascent, with the exit of the slow planets from the square in Pisces, is a bit the seeker of truth of the whole zodiac. On the Gemini pivot much zodiacal truth will be based. The sun is naturally in the 9th solar house signs, teaches you to broaden mental boundaries, right? A bit like that drive for progress we were talking about in Aquarius. Here, this is what Gemini undergoes also this week. It's a very good thing. Undergoes because it is under the influence. Awareness of one's own ignorance, dear ones, is the beginning of wisdom. But to feel ignorant, we must deal with people more cultured than us. So, dear friends of Gemini, if you have, they're friends of Gemini who for years have confined themselves in cultural realities lower than their expectations. They did it because maybe the husband, the wife belonged to a cultural fabric, not social. For goodness sake, heaven forbid, different, and who now are starting to find a bit tight. So before you're forced to get yourself a lover to go and talk to them, I'm not kidding. You must know that Gemini is a sign that has a component of betrayal inherent in itself. Let's start from this concept here. However, it has in its betraying this necessity, the need for dialogue. So a Gemini person or Gemini could betray another person simply because with that person there is no dialogue. And they could do it with a person who maybe physically is not very attractive, etc., especially with people who come from the past. So you Geminis think about it a bit like that if effectively the environment you are in is still worth living, because maybe you have professional opportunities and of all types in those fields, or if not, and you have to in this case go. It is a week in which if you read, you interject almost everything. So this sun teaches us that we can learn a lot, and from this we can change a bit also the vision of the world. Excellent news for those who deal. We also said last week, a bit with the law, publishing, relations with other people, especially abroad, because these people will be able to exploit the synthesis ability of Gemini. Extraordinary, in an important way. Many ambassadors have important Gemini aspects, either the sign or a zodiac imprinted on Gemini. If you have to convince the boss of something, do it now, because then you will enjoy the benefits when Uranus will be yours. The financial phase should enjoy a bit of breath too, dear. Mercury has already come out of Aquarius and is already making the first sextile inside. Yes, it makes the first sextile with the Taurus suns inside Pisces. So one last effort is needed. This effort, dear friends of Taurus, is an adaptive effort. Someone could propose a change of role or a new responsibility that forces you to leave your preferences. Now, I will say a bad thing from your comfort zone, so you all understood me, but you know that I hate this definition. But clearly, to make you understand, you should accept this challenge. Many Taurus will do it, but I know that a good percentage surely no, because it's a moment for many Taurus also of a minimum of confusion. So be careful. You have all the credentials to succeed in what is being proposed to you. Hardly will something be proposed to you that you cannot do. On the economic front, You must avoid emotional spending. Taurus has moments in which it spends to unload the soul a bit. And it's fine, it fits, right? When we are stressed, we spend money justly earned, and it's fine. The problem is that Taurus is the only sign that regrets it the second after. Taurus could say, come on, let's go on a trip. Then even before leaving, already when he's on the plane, he says, oh my God, how much we are spending. You understand? There's a thing. Then it's enough that one thing goes minimally wrong and Taurus stiffens. The first thing he thinks about is the money. But oh well, this is a character trait of the sign. As for affections, be careful because a career here this week could steal a bit of space in the heart, and the partner might not take it well. The weekend I personally would dedicate completely to affections, also because the moon starts in Scorpio, does a nice slice of Capricorn. It's true it greets us almost in Aquarius, but it still works. Singles then can make very important meetings with successful people. So if there are people who are able to give you security, friends of Taurus, and I'm talking about men and women, maybe it's time to extend at least a hand to understand what world these people move in and understand if this world, which is then made of many things, in some way interests us. I know it's not really a very simple thing because it will be necessary to wake up from adolescence, but that's how it is. So, dear friends of Cancer, let's go back to Greece, and let's go back again dull parts of Plato with the focus on an idea of emotions intense but very underground. The secret of change is to concentrate all energy not in fighting the old, but in building the new. In fact, if we are able to build the new, there is no need to demolish the old. As I was saying, it is a week of underground emotions intense, and you are a bit in a phase of metamorphosis. Many of you surely, yes, will feel a bit like caterpillars inside the cocoon before becoming a butterfly, and as a caterpillar must accept the end of form. That is not said to be better, because you know better than me that the farfalla is something ephemeral. The caterpillar is something that has a long life. The majority of the life of the caterpillar is the caterpillar. You are precisely. For this reason, reconsidering a bit of old defensive schemes that in fact a bit block you. So please, this thing you must clean in absolute manner. Build the new, don't demolish the old. For how many things can be done? Think a bit to a house. You can throw it down, but you can also build one more floor if the regulatory plan allows it. Now, I don't pull out the architect, which is the first degree I took in my life, but I assure you that you can do beautiful things even inside old houses. So, and ask me for the rest? No. It's clear that it's a thing you must learn to do. The Cancer demolisher with the bulldozer. You must forget it at least for a while. It is a moment in which you are quite perspicacious in managing others' resources or even complex bureaucratic situations. If you have to do things like SBID, I said one, electronic signature, fill out electronic documents, here the best way is a good week to do them is this. Someone will say, but the sun is in Quinkings, what the heck are you telling us? Yes, but it is also in Aquarius with all the planets, and so it is a very good thing. Also, it is a good time to manage legal matters. You don't have to seek anyone's applause, please, because strength is the effectiveness of silence. Go explain now this. Practically think of being a species of miner, that while others find nothing when they dig, you manage to understand from outside what's underneath. Okay? And ever try to do the I bring home the pizza boxes, and do the game to who guesses their own pizza? Simply from a smell? You don't imagine how many people go wrong. Here, now imagine yourselves that you are precisely that one who from the pizza box manages to understand from the smell. Which one is theirs? One is not confused by others. I hope you understood despite the truly bad example that came to me, but things I do live, and as they pass through my head, I tell you, in love is the moment to seek the fusion, the most complete. Consolidated couples can find interesting levels of complicity. You've seen surely that even a bit your sexuality is changing. Now it's returning out of the clash, and it's not bad. There could be a small crisis, and this we don't mind at all, because it's an improving thing. The singles have from their dark and powerful magnetism. It's necessary to stay careful, dear friends of Cancer, to not project your needs on those who cannot absolutely satisfy them. It's a moment of true substance. We understood it. If you listen to what I said to the preceding signs, surely it's understood that if there's not a bit of true matter, a bit of reality, this week the planets that are tied to feelings, to affections, but also to sex will not work at all. It's a moment also of purification of the body. If instinct tells you to slow down to eliminate emotional and food toxins, do it. And it's a good moment to pull away everything. I should tell you, if we were working in an Hippocratic way, to drink really a lot. Look at a bit of herbal medicine of this month. Leo. So, dear friends of Leo, Henry Ford used to say, he talked not so much about feelings, but as much about work. Meeting is a beginning, staying together a progress, working together a success. Very, very beautiful. Remember that you have the sun in opposition. So your star on the other side, and as Hegel suggested in the master-slave dialectic, we take knowledge of ourselves only through the recognition of others. And this sun on the other side puts in front of you precisely this thematic here. That is, to attribute to others qualities and values that normally you do not exhibit. This week your ego must surely take a step back. It applies from when the sun entered Aquarius. We know it. But this week with the sun toward the end, it's even more felt. Relations can go better than usual only if you think in this manner. If you manage to mediate, well, you might even get away with it because Mercury has come out of the sign of Pisces. And as you see from the table, also Venus after 2 days from the sign of Aquarius. Also Venus after 2 days greets it, and everything is a bit under examination. Actually, I would say under revision, which is even worse. But the important thing is that you don't feel under observation, because yes, from one point of view, it is important to analyze oneself, but from the other, it is extremely important not to have stress, because stress is particularly incident in this period precisely due to the opposition of the sun and of that of Mars, which will not get out of the way so soon. So we must be very precise and very patient. You must not react with pride. You must dress yourselves with important objectivity, otherwise it's trouble. Start to think that anyway everything you are doing is in the direction of a new cycle, which is the one that starts with the slow planets in Aries, and with which in one way or another we will have to learn to live together. It deals with an aspect that goes from positive to very positive, but that anyway will bring us changes that are not always, let's say, known to us. Here we are, and that can a moment scare. Do not be conceited in spending. Avoid false steps. Gambles, because those will only do you harm, even though I must say that probably Leo, all this desire to spend it doesn't have. So we must be careful. And the good news for you is that past this week, then the year doesn't have terrible astrological configuration. To find something that gives us trouble, we have to wait for the sun in Pisces. No. To find something annoying, we have to wait for the sun in Taurus, while instead the slow planets like Uranus, Jupiter, Saturn, and Neptune will put themselves in conditions not to harm for a good while. So, dear friends of Leo, start substantially an astrological era. I don't say a tranquility, because that is never, never, never true, but where Leo will be subject surely much more to the fast planets, so to the sudden changes of one's own life than not to the sedimentary ones. For example, with the entry of Uranus inside Gemini, then to find it in negative position, we should wait for it to reach even in Scorpio. So surely many of us, I don't say the half, will not see it of dear Leo. This arc that is about to be completed of positivity of the slow planets or of not disturbance even better brings you back a bit in the center, in which probably many of you were born, and so something that resembles as decision, as movement astral to your childhood could reappear. If you are single, you might meet very different people, but it's not really the week to trust them. Virgo. I had to bother Bertrand Russell to do a bit of cleaning in this week. He always said it would be beautiful. Actually, he writes, there's nothing as tiring as indecision, and nothing as useless. Well, you have the sun in what is the sixth solar house. Next week it will walk in your opposite house, and so there will be to fight a bit. It is an anthem anyway to productivity, not to let go, and anyway a good week to put in order a bit the pieces of your life. How does one free oneself from doubt? Russell always said, acting with method, or this is a bit more beautiful, being surgeon of everyday life. The surgeon is not someone who does something extremely mechanical, because yes, you've seen all the things you want now. There are also three-dimensional instrumentations that make you see what is the situation inside the patient. But if you don't open at certain things, you cannot see. Now, for as much as it might seem bloody, this my digression is a bit that is when you will go this week to do important things, dear friends of Virgo. The first thing is to understand exactly what we have in front, and to understand the true nature of things, we must, as someone used to say, be able to touch them. If not touch, see very closely. You trusted a bit in things seen from far in these last times, and it's not a beautiful thing, because Virgo, when it must do things from far, can combine different messes. Both at work and in love. Work could be a large mole, a bit much zodiac counts on you. Eh? This is to say many things are downloaded precisely on Virgo. It's a good moment to work with technology this yes, but careful because some things could shortly rebel. So put in safety all your systems because some problem you could have. In love, never, as now probably Virgo seeks an important stability. You are interested a little in volatility as much as it comes maybe from people who are a bit more complex than you. Virgo has especially when it is between 40 and 50, let's say, after 35, the species of illusion is succeeding in entering and exiting from sentimental relationships in simple manner. And it's never like that because many times it puts a depth of affection such that from the other side, the relationship from provisional tends to become definitive. So the two, either you don't expose yourselves ever, Virgo, or if you want that the person from the other side reciprocates with an important affection, also you must be ready then that affection to not pull it back. Same on work is tied much to responsibility, the beauty of singles. So a bit of order, a bit of internal cleaning, surely what Virgo could want from this week, that among other things begins with the moon in sextile so good that then goes and square the day after, but then passes through Capricorn. So the mental energy is quite good. It doesn't give you too many problems. It's a moment in which, dear friends of Virgo, you must start to control the moon because this one passes on Lilith. This time it is not in sextile as it had accustomed us for a bit of time in Scorpio, but it is in square in Sagittarius, for which a negative aspect of the conjunction between these two stars, you should see a bit what it brings to you on this reasoning scene, that you have also the node that you can see here inside Pisces, which is clearly in opposition. It brings you to have lunar. Cycles not exactly perfect, for which the study of these phases must be for you very methodical, because a moment guys getting nervous being subjected to the moon is not a very simple thing, not even very difficult to manage, because maybe you know how to do it, but it's important in this moment, because it's all, let's say, and friends of Libra. Well, even this week the sun naturally in trigonal relative to our sons of birth in a beautiful fifth solar house. As William Blake said, whom I invite you to look at his wonderful watercolors, because other there is not as to define them. He said, life without exuberance is a sin. It is a luminous week. This surely even the moon gives little trouble, if not at the half of the week. It is the moment to give space to your talents, and to permit yourselves a bit of healthy fun. Do not be afraid to shine in the true essence of the thing, as said not in the figure part, because your natural harmony, this balance that the sun permits you to put in place, is a gift for who surrounds you. From the working point of view, it is a moment in which you have much initiative. If you work in sectors tied to art, spectacle, luxury, this is an excellent moment. You succeed in selling your ideas with a charm that is not really of everyone. It is an excellent period for launching new projects. Well, this we know, we already said it also last week, and for reviving those old with touches of genius, especially now that Mercury starts to put itself in a not perfect position. No, that now it will be your turn to deal with Saturn, that passes from a negative position to a very negative position. So, dear friends of Libra, attention, let's enjoy in the meantime this week. There are things that are tied to the world of creativity. Let's say that this week more it's creative and more things can be made easy. It is a moment also at level of sentiment, also important. The couple has a passion that can be very strong this year during the week, will go waning during the weekend, because Venus changes from Aquarius to Pisces. But let's say that the general trend of the week also at level of sentiment is good. There's desire for joy, and this is important, because Libra doesn't have it always, but this who is Libra knows it very well. And naturally, for singles, the occasions sprout a bit everywhere. Now, I naturally must premise this thing. It's not that all Libra are very courted, but in the general favor of the zodiac, there are a week in which people are more disposed to pass on your defects. So this is that makes you, let's say, favored always among many quotes this week compared to other solar situations of the zodiac. The people that normally you will attract are people with a certain vitality. So if you don't feel like it and go in search of something different, it's better to not yield precisely to these people. It is important to let yourselves be transported this week. This week you are an excellent companion of travels. I would not choose you as guide because apart from Mercury, already in quinkings, and so travels and all the movements and all the leadership in moving things, you are anyway shoulders more robust of who must go forward. Sometimes remaining in the rear guard in love, in work, and carrying with dignity the burden is much more important than being the avant-gardist. It's also, I will tell you, less dangerous, so profit from this week that wants to see you exuberant from one part, but also extremely conservative toward yourselves and toward what you have earned or that you are earning. Because it is a moment, dear friends of Libra, to put also something aside, because now arrives a bit that solar winter of solar opposition is important. And here it will touch to defend both the wallet and the sentiments and the health this year. Because the slow planets start to become an important manner opposite, even if among all cardinal signs you are probably the one less unfortunate, let's say relative to the transits, because in a bit Uranus will go in favorable position. Scorpio. I took an anonymous, which is an adage and that is found developed in Eastern Europe in very full manner, which is strength does not reside in winning, but in not surrendering never. The planets are migrating slowly from a situation not good a square to a situation of trigono, which is that of Pisces, which is particularly relaxing and important for Scorpios, especially who are under pressure. It is a week of introversion. The fire is on the CA, is on the domestic walls. The sun in fourth house is a sun that normally is a type of square, but that clearly works much for solar house always on the emotional basis. The world think a bit of being as if you were a bit submerged and the surface is quite wavy while you descend toward the depths where it's true there's less light, but one stays much more quiet. There are times of familiar truth. Important, it's necessary to dissolve a bit the nodes of the past to free the present. Now, if you have a spiritual life, important I say always, it doesn't matter which religion, my ideas, but I think that spirituality then can be expressed in many ways, not all legitimate, not all truthful, however, spirituality is important in any case, if it goes towards a good. And precisely in this sense, dear friends of the Scorpio, we must work this week. That is a concept of addressing spiritually also to oneself to dissolve those that are a bit the nodes of our private life, that this week gives us more trouble than many other things at work, for example, is important. So address your prayers, your supplications. If they are of make part your personal paths, your ideas. It is not so precisely that is problematic. It is a moment of determination, but as we have already said, it's necessary to act a bit behind the wings. Because it's necessary to consolidate of positions, it's necessary to be above all discreet. It is a moment, one thing that I've started to notice, that this is a good since the moon starts then Monday, precisely from the sign. For who works in house, it is a good moment. So let's say that good part if you succeed in doing a works of house, surely you can work in a sense, if you succeed in working from house, not moving you are advantaged, even if the small movements will serve you to meet people. So also, this is an important thing. This concerns also for who works with the real estate. Okay? So who is that works with the real estate can have of the intuitions urgent, also who must buy a house. I know that the sun in square, but dear friends mine with the slow planets that move to the opposition of Uranus that is going away, because Uranus has stopped the retrograde motion, is particularly significant. This large a change of the house for the Scorpio isn't a very great change. So much so that the Scorpios others accumulate money. Jules the Scorpio accumulates house. This I always said, but it's very true, And with the fact that Uranus removes itself from this opposition very long, maybe it's time to unblock investments important. And one of comes to me in mind can be precisely the house. So let's work a bit on this. At center of the effective thoughts, clearly there's a bit an idea of nest. This nest, however, is a nest that goes built. If you have need of protection, heat, you must put order inside these things. You must put order a bit inside everything. This is particularly important. You are spoiled by a bit of selectivity, try to remove it from away, because gives only trouble, because now it's necessary to be very determined to go towards the people that truly you think can give you something independently from their sentimental state. It's a moment of true substance. We understood it. If you listen to what I said to the preceding signs, surely it's understood that if there's not a bit of true matter, a bit of reality, this week the planets that are tied to feelings, to affections, but also to sex will not work at all. It's a moment also of purification of the body. If instinct tells you to slow down to eliminate emotional and food toxins, do it. And it's a good moment to pull away everything. I should tell you, if we were working in an Hippocratic way, to drink really a lot. Look at a bit of herbal medicine of this month. Sagittarius. Well, dear friends of Sagittarius, the bit by bit our dear planets from a sextile are migrating towards that which is a square of Pisces before taking in the open sea through Aries. Stephen Hawking, whom you all know as astrophysicist, said, "Intelligence is a capacity to adapt to change." This is a moment in which the sextiles of the Aquarian suns render you rapid, curious, render you incredibly sociable. The sun in third solar house naturally speeds up everything, whether it's contacts, whether it's exchanges, whether it's travels, whether it's thoughts. Your strength this week is all in your mental flexibility. You are ready to catch on the fly every opportunity, transforming every encounter into a potential adventure, whether one speaks of sentiments or whether one speaks of work. It is a very interesting working week for communication and networking. So if you must sell something or else convince someone to do a determined action, you are surely more advantaged than many other signs of zodiac. Dialectics is brilliant, serves to open doors unexpected. So dialogue is the thing that pays the most in absolute this week, dear friends of Sagittarius. Also, ideas run fast. Let's try not make them run too fast. We must make sure that others understand them. It can happen also that of the movements, very small, bring to professional, results important. Now, this Sagittarius that doesn't want to move ever from where it is must start to take, as I say, the trains, because otherwise, dear friends, if you remain sedentary, if you hope that it's the others to come to you, I'm sorry, but it will not be possible. It is a moment of migration towards better things. The slow planets are entering an Aries mark, as if it were a clock, that a day has passed for someone. It will mean much for others. It will mean absolutely nothing. Do the count that in a bit there will be also Jupiter in Leo, and so it will be necessary to exploit at most these situations of restarting a restart. As a machine that is stopped, you must turn again the key, and the departure of this machine is a departure for a journey, where the motor will turn off only when the gas is finished. It is an excellent moment for updating courses that are fundamental now, and also for dialoguing with cultures a bit different. If we had been in another period, you would have told that it was a moment to learn a new language, but with technologies new, I don't tell you that it's useless, but I think absolutely so. But we are almost there here. So do the count that it's the moment to get closer, maybe to different cultures. In love, seek stimuli, and fun dialogue is your favorite way to reach the partner's heart. In couple, it's important to rediscover the taste of chats, also those nocturnal, because then Sagittarius at night now works very well during the day, a bit less, but at night works very well. And start to share important projects. It is the moment in which when you meet a person you must put in front of clearly sympathy. In dynamic, youthful contexts, it's possible a bit of everything. For those who instead have an age a bit more advanced, my advice is to not fossilize once again on the past, which anyway has finished breaking the boxes, annoying. And this is good that you know it. It is the moment to project oneself prepotently forward. Many of you are already taking a run-up, I know it, because many of my clients of Sagittarius are carrying forward their ideas of renewal already from a bit, but it is the moment to open them even more. So please, dear friends, this is fundamental also because you are vitality and you are very vital. Attention to not get distracted for this excessive desire for movement. Please, this is fundamental because distractions are possible. Mercury, already in square Venus, goes there after, so attention to not hurt yourselves. Friends of Capricorn, the planets are moving from the Aquarius semi-sextile, which I imagine we've all learned to appreciate, to the Pisces sextile. Everything is bursting open, including commitments. With Jupiter against you, everything that should be simple becomes complicated. In a little while, we'll also have Uranus, which has stopped its retrograde motion in Taurus and has started again. It's heading into Gemini and beginning an arc across 3 signs, where it's totally negative for Capricorn. By this, I don't mean it's opposite, but it starts a phase of negativity that lasts 3 signs, Gemini, Cancer, and Leo. Most likely. As I've said, few of us will see the end of this, so you just have to get used to it. Those who caught the last part of their lives with this aspect just have to accept it and learn how to exploit it. Because Uranus in Gemini isn't exactly an absolute power, as we'll see later. I'll recycle Seneca for you, whom we've talked about most. He wrote, "He is not poor who has little, but he who craves more." Right now, Capricorn is somewhat the pillar of the entire economy of the zodiac. There's a moment where you aren't focused on public visibility. You like working behind the scenes. There are Capricorns who have lost the desire to be too far out in front because overexposure for a Capricorn is something that goes poorly. It's a sign where envy hits very hard, more so than other signs, and it leaves deep scars. It's an important moment to start doing your invoices. Capricorn, you have to do them now. Mercury is on the other side, so send out as many as you can. If you have old payments pending, try to recover them. Show yourself a little. Don't be afraid to hide your versatility. One of the things about Capricorn is that often, out of fear of many things, you hide your various sides. You lose yourself as a complete person. For example, maybe everyone knows you're an excellent pastry chef, but then you win dance championships and you don't tell anyone to avoid putting the two things in conflict. Capricorn, if anyone told you that was wrong, you shouldn't care at all. I say this for myself first, because it's an effect that will now intensify with Saturn. But the fact that Saturn is going to end up at the beginning of an Aries year, and it's already at the 29th degree of Pisces, means we must read it as negative, because astrology tells us to do so. However, there are wide openings. It's like a fence, but one that starts at a certain height where some Capricorns have already slipped through. And when you inevitably get caught, you'll have a way to escape. So we should be good at running away when necessary and resisting when necessary. If you are a robust Capricorn, you don't have much to fear from this transit. Neptune is a bit more messed up. We'll try to understand it as we go along. Naturally, the migration of planets into Pisces leads to an elevation of Capricorn skills, of the recognition of Capricorn, and of Capricorn ability to adapt. You will have to make many compromises. You'll have to say yes many times, and above all, you must not let yourself be caught at a disadvantage. You must use a fast response system. When they give you something to do, you can respond with other requests about what you are doing, but submerge your, let's not call them antagonists, your employers and others with material. Never leave a job uncovered. Send material as much as you can, even if it's not perfect. This is important. Love is very concrete this week. If you are single, mature, and reliable people are the ones in charge here. So look for those people because it's the time to start something lasting. Aquarius. But the great Gandhi used to say, be the change you want to see in the world. Well, you have the sun many best wishes. Once again, the solar season is something this year. For Aquarius, surely of excellent. It's a beautiful, radiant stage full of revolutionary ideas that you must keep aside. Maybe they will serve us a bit later, when Jupiter will be in opposition, and a bit of trust will be lacking. Everything that is in your life has stopped you feel that you must unblock it. Clearly, you cannot do it with everything. It is the moment of choices. Change, as we saw before speaking of Gandhi, starts always in the person in these astrological conditions. This week, you have the power to give a new direction to what is a bit your destiny. You are inspired. You are leaders. Your innovative ideas are welcome with enthusiasm, especially if you know how to present them with what is your natural charisma. It is the moment to dare as much as possible launch those projects that you have for a time in the drawer. Do that course your originality in these things is a bit the key of success. In the house, they might notice that you are a bit boiling, and this can be a very beautiful thing. Possible strokes of luck tied to your image can bring to good results, and new collaboration side technology here, I talk naturally with the youngest, can bring to important things. The important thing on this thing is that you know how to slip away at the right moment, because this is a moment in which few things are being born, but many are closing. Very attentive friends of Aquarius to this. It's clear that the sun renders you also for many ways charming. In the couple one move seeking to bring fresh air, which is fundamental. Now many Aquarian relationships have been stuck for a long time. They must be absolutely unblocked, and they must be unblocked now, because then after it will be practically impossible. And on this line, friends are succeeding at least to knock down a bit of barricades. I say always if there's the barricade substitute, that of wood with a gate, because the renewal will do you good. Changing things around you is the most important thing in this moment. The singles might have important meetings in this week, normally Aquarius when it does the birthday, or anyway at the start of the astrological year tends to settle. So February and March and a bit of April. Try to be unique. There's need to return to Earth the least possible. It's a moment in which ideas walk, but a bit like the albatross on the actor. Go and see what this bird is, which is the largest bird in the world in terms of wingspan. It's a bird that rarely descends to Earth. Here, dear Aquarius, one must behave precisely like him who apart from to lay eggs. There's an absolute necessity. Never detaches from that fly, which is your fantasy, which is your way of being. You must not do it always, but exploit now this excellent week, which among other things starts with the moon in square, so nervousness on Monday. But the moon goes away immediately, and your great arc begins. So also at level psychological, you are particularly put well. At level of health, you should be more than, well, you feel particularly electric now. Here it would be necessary to pull a bit out of astrology of the 19th century, and it would be beautiful. It is the moment, maybe to clean a bit, that overload that has the nervous system. There are many stimuli. There are very many. But clearly you must act a bit as a lightning rod, eh? When one is struck by lightning as much as a lightning can be powerful, the lightning rod stays there, and absolutely nothing happens to it. Sure, someone will say it is a firm thing of metal Aquarius is less. But during the storm, understand me, there are moments in which it's necessary to act as lightning rod and moments in which it's necessary to act as ground, and avoid maybe exchanging the two things, a thing that the exit of Mercury from a sign could a minimum bring to you. Pisces. Dear friends, I introduced to you a phrase that I like particularly by Edgar Cayce that said, dreams are the answers of today to the questions of tomorrow. Here you have the sun in 12th. It is running towards you. So the gestation is almost the birth you are in that phase, right? That 8th month of women. I not being a woman, I don't know what one feels being pregnant to give birth, but I imagine what can be when one arrives toward the final months where a path has been completed and one waits precisely the birth. It is a moment of listening, important of dreams. As I suggested previously, it's the unconscious that works for you, giving you the answers that you are seeking. It is a week of psychic sensitivity. Particularly, you must protect all your energy, and you must above all seek silence. Now, this is a thing that maybe to some of you will not please, but it is something useful. Why is it necessary to open little mouth? But it is not a reproach, it is not an invitation to not act, it is an invitation to do it moderating yourselves much, because if you may go out prepotently, that which is your physicality, that which is your being person before that spirit, in my opinion, you lose of pieces. Of important pieces, because the season doesn't arrive always. It is a particular moment, the moment in which Saturn with all its monsters, because Saturn when it enters in the last 2 degrees has this tendency to give us of nightmares, to put back on feet of monsters. So Saturn with its monsters slowly moves away, goes towards Aries, makes the sextiles for as much as a conjunction were a good thing. If it's a good thing always, but when the planet is very consumed as in this case, and then there's other interferences like that of Jupiter from the other side, which is in trigono, and so amplifies the things can bring to it to restore doubts, to restore a fears, a thing that Pisces above, all with the entry of Mercury, now the collapse that Venus will do in week the sun that gets closer will arrive, then also Mars in a bit cannot allow itself. So cleaning of these monsters that in my opinion must be destroyed from the foundations. Free also a bit the house. I once, if you remember well, when this period arrived, I told you to turn the bed, that thing for which to put on magnetic axes, among many quotes here. We should talk about feng shui. But as well you know the time is little but a disposition of the house a bit different before that your birthday arrives, in my opinion, is not only good, but is absolutely necessary. It is the moment also at love level of spiritual connections. Try to be as much sweet as possible. If you are a bit elusive, don't worry, it's a head that is going away, but explain well to your partner that you have need of silence, and also some escape into the world of dreams. Here said thus. For the singles there are of loves a bit secret, that seem almost guided by destiny. I tell you mine, you could a bit yield, because maybe in that shadow is hidden a relation that will not go from any place, but that will set your life well. Now to give you an example, no. It could be that relation that gives you the work input. It could be that relation that wakes you up at level sexual. It could be that relation that makes you understand how certain things should be lived. So the fleeting things are not always wrong things. Attention for last to the immune system this week. Because of the various influences of rest, you are the sign most at risk for this. Well, guys, I thank you again. I hope they've been clear. And I send you a large greeting, and we'll see you at the next.